Oh, God. Hello there, CriterioNate here. Number 322. Orson Welles, The Complete Mr. Arkadin. 97. Black and white. I can say black and white. I can say black and white. Monaural. I can definitely say that. English. This is everything about this movie makes no sense. Yeah. So this is the infamous Mr. Arkadin. So I'm going to go ahead and try and start off by telling you the basic plot of this film, or like the whole plot of this film, and then get on to my analysis of the most obvious aspect that everybody talks about this movie. Movie stars Robert Alden, I think his name is, as a Guy Van. I'm going to refer to the cast list. Robert Arkadin as Guy Van Straten, who is an American cigarette smuggler, and he finds a body. And the majority of the movie is told in flashback to a man named Jacob Zook, who is sort of in hiding, and Van Straten needs Zook, needs to hide Zook because he's afraid that Zook is going to be killed. And so Van Straten tells him the whole movie is basically, up until about the end, is Van Straten telling Zook his entire story. Guy Van Straten found a dead body, or a murdered man, on this pier where he was with his girlfriend Millie. And the murdered man, before he dies, whispers two names to Millie. One of them is Mr. Arkadin, was a name Arkadin, Gregory Arkadin. And the other name, Millie couldn't make out at the time, but it's revealed later that the name is Sophie. Mr. Arkadin, Gregory Arkadin, is this kind of like really famous mogul, and I think they're in Greece, I believe. I don't remember even where they saw the movie 3 times, which I'll explain in a second. Of course, you guys have seen it. I already know what I'm talking about. And so they get invited to. He meets Mr. Arkadin's daughter, Raina, and so he and Millie gets jealous and all that. But anyway, so he meets, Guy meets Mr. Arkadin, and at this masquerade party. And Mr. Arkadin reveals, Mr. Arkadin is played by Orson Welles, reveals that he has a whole file made up on Guy Van Straten called titled Confidential Report. And so he kind of blackmails him into helping him or something, like meeting him. So they meet again later, I think the next day, or Guy meets Mr. Arkadin and tells him, and Mr. Arkadin tells him that he needs his help figuring out who he is. Apparently, in 1927, he suffered like this huge bout of amnesia, and he can't remember his entire life from his birth to 1927 or something. And so he asks for his help, and so basically Guy goes around like all these countries and tries to piece it all together. Millie finds out that the other name that Bracco, the guy who was murdered on the pier, his name is Sophie. And so, gosh, I'm trying to remember. I have to go back to my notes because I took notes. While he's in there, Guy falls for Raina, and what else? Let's see. I'm looking at my notes. Millie ends up on a yacht, getting drunk on a yacht with Mr. Arkadin, and she ends up going to I forget where it is. I forget where he's going to. Place with a T, asking for a guy. This other smuggler who used to work with Guy, and so she, tells him about this guy. What's his name? Guy goes to ends up he disguises himself as a news reporter, and he ends up going to Copenhagen to meet this guy with the flea circus, and then he ends up going to the shop. Asking this guy about everything, and I think it's the shop that Trebuch is this gate or something, and the shop owner is played by the Michael Redgrave, who we remember from 39 Steps, and so the shop owner gives the name Baroness Nagel, I think is her name, and so she apparently had, was in on this whole espionage thing or whatever, or knew Mr. Arkadin. And Mr. Arkadin ends up meeting her. However, she meets with him after Guy's already met with her. Guy, anyway, Guy checks into his hotel. Raina has caught up with him. That was the other thing. Mr. Arkadin gave him this assignment on the grounds that he would stay away from Raina, and she was put under the impression that he had left, all that. However, she caught up with him, and Mr. Arkadin's already in his room, and he finds out that they met and all that, and he gets all upset, and so he finds out that Sophie had a husband named Oscar, who was like a heroin junkie, and so he kidnaps him and traps him on this boat and forces him, to go clean unless he tells him about Sophie, his wife, and all that. And so now they're in Mexico, and Mr. Arkadin has been following him. And he's there with him, and so he finds out that. He finds out all that, and and Arkadin's been calling Guy, checking in and seeing how he's been doing and all that. Guy actually meets Sophie, whose real name is Senora Jesus Martinez, I think, and so she finds out, I guess she and Arkadin were a thing at one point, and at one point he didn't have a beard. She shows his photo album, and what else? And so he ends up finding out that, and so on his way, when he he's trying to meet up with Zeus. What's his name? Was Zeus? Yeah, Zook. The German police stop him and tell him that there has been another murder. But they don't want to tell him who it is, and so they give him this file, and he goes to this party that Arkadin's holding, and the police call the party and tell Guy to reveal who it is, and he opens it up, and he finds out that Millie was murdered, and her body was left on the beach, and so, then he finds out that Sophie had been murdered, Oscar had been murdered, and so he suspects, Arkadin, and so he's, but he's not sure. Arkadin apparently had been making up the whole amnesia thing, and so anyway, so by this point, this is when he needs to get Zook out of his building. Zook doesn't want to leave. Zook ends up hiding him in another this lady's apartment. Arkadin already sees him go in, and so I guess he goes in, and it seems like he doesn't recognize Zook at first, but later on, but after that, Zook demands that Guy get him a. Guy says, "I'll put you up in a hotel. I'll hide you. I'll do whatever you want." And he says he wants a, what is it? What does he want? He wants a goose liver, a cooked goose liver with mashed potatoes and onions and carrots and stuff like that. So he goes around trying to find all these places, and then finally he meets up with Arkadin, and Arkadin's men cook him a goose liver. He brings the goose liver to Zook, and Zook is dead. Zook was murdered. So the idea is that, so I guess the whole thing is that, but the main point of it all is that, so Guy needs to meet up with Raina, wants to meet up with Raina and tell him the truth and all that. However, so there's a race between, but however, Mr. Arkadin wants to stop him. Not so much that he's really trying to. He mostly just doesn't want. He wants to protect his daughter. He really cares about her more than anything, more than anyone except for himself and his daughter. And so he's trying to prevent Guy. He wants to prevent Guy from, telling her the truth about him. He'd much rather that she do it. He do it himself. He boards this. Guy boards this plane to where Raina is. Arkadin tries to buy the ticket from him and gets really angry. So he charters his own plane out. Tries to fly his own plane out to there with emptying with like little to no fuel in it. However, Guy beats him there and doesn't tell her the truth, but. Because at the same time as he tries to tell her, Arkadin calls the airport or the airport and tells them to call his daughter because he has something to tell her. And so Guy follows her and tells her to tell her father that I already told you what I had to tell you. It's too late. There's a silence, and the plane and. Arkadin dies in the plane. The plane explodes and crashes, and basically that's all he is, because he kind of died of shame, in the end. And yeah, and that's how the movie ends. Basically, he leaves Guy leaves Raina, and Raina goes back with her British boyfriend. And that's basically the end of the movie. I guess Guy goes back to smuggling or something. So that's the basic plot of the movie. Now, I gave it a B+. However, I feel like I should give each version of this movie a different rating. Now the whole thing that I've been holding off, and I should have said it from the get-go because that's the one thing anybody talks about, and the reason why it's called The Complete Mr. Arkadin, is that there are, I think, about 8 or 9 different versions of this movie in different formats. There are 5 different filmed versions of the movie. There were 2 Spanish editions. Then there's called the Corneth version, which is, I think, the Corneth version. There's a version called Confidential Report. And then there is, see, I'm blanking out now. They described 5 different versions of it, and so I think I'm looking at Mr. Arkadin now. From what I understand, yeah, there were 5. I think there were 5 different versions, not including the new Criterion version that was included. Yeah, so there's two. Yeah, so there were 5 versions of it. There were the 2 Spanish versions. There was the Corneth version, which was a edit that was found by Peter Bogdabaja, Cross-Eyed Peter guy, and that was found in like the early '60s. Confidential Report, which was like the first, I think the main British version of it, and then public domain edited version, which was like a television print. And those 5 versions were the 5 versions that exist of the movie. And so yeah, so in this package, it contains 3 versions. There's the Corneth version, which is on disc 1, Confidential Report, which is on disc 2, and then disc 3 contains what is known as the comprehensive version, which is a newly designed version of Mr. Arkadin, produced by Criterion and edited by these two guys, these 2 French producers, with supervision by Peter. I'm just trying to say his name right. Peter Bogdanovich. What is Peter Bogdanovich? No, I can't even find his name. Oh well, it's not that important anyway. Anyway, so that's the basic. That's the history. And I would say so basically this, and the booklet, tries to include, has a history, has, chapters, and has a history of the whole story, has an essay on each different version of the movie, a chronology, and yeah. And it also comes with, and it's not included on the library set I got, but it also comes with a novelization of the movie, which for a long period of time was, many people thought it was written by Orson Welles, but Orson Welles admitted time and time again, I didn't write this. I didn't write a word of it, And there were also apparently 3 pre-film versions of this movie, released as part of the Lives of Harry Lime radio show, which we've heard some of them, which are included on the Third Man set. I guess there were 3 episodes. One called Man of Mystery, one called Murder on the Riviera, and one called Greek Meets Greek. So there's those, and I think yes, and there's I guess there was also, I'm looking at the Wikipedia page right now. There was also a screenplay version of it an early screenplay version called Masquerade. And let's see. And yeah, so there's technically right now there are, I guess you'd consider 9 different versions of it. If you include the 5 filmed versions, if you include the 5 versions, the novelization, the screenplay, the 3 episodes of The Lives of Harry Lime, and the Criterion edit. So I was thinking, okay. Originally, I gave the movie a B+, just because I thought it's not the most interesting movie. It's great, because Orson Welles is fun to watch. He's just a brilliant guy. And that's the thing about the controversial thing about Confidential Report is that the co-producer Louis Duvet, I think his name was. What was his name? Louis Dolivet, I think Dolivet, locked Orson Welles out of the editing room when he made Confidential Report and edited together what is known as Confidential Report. The main differences, and I'll talk a little bit about the main differences between the 3 versions because I took notes. In Confidential Report, throughout the movie, because I started with the Corneth version and I moved on to Confidential Report, so I used Corneth version as the main basis for learning the plot and basic structure and main starting point. Confidential Report has different titles, has a different title sequence. I think it has some additional images that aren't in the Corneth version. I don't remember there being bats, but there might have been. I think there was bats in the Corneth version. There's a lot more narration at the beginning. There's a narration from Guy at the beginning of the movie. There's narration missing throughout the film, throughout the Corneth version. The meeting with Zook is shorter, and that's the other big thing is that throughout the Corneth version and consequently the Criterion edit, the comprehensive version, we see Guy talking to Zook. We come back to Guy talking to Zook. Throughout the Confidential Report, we don't see Zook at all until it's time to get him out of his apartment. Let's see. There's another scene where Guy is asking about Raina on this boat with this African American pianist, like it's on this club. And what else? There's a short scene that isn't in the Corneth version with Arkadin talking about this dream he had about in a graveyard. Let's see, Guy and Millie lobby talk. There's a little bit of dialogue where Guy and Millie are talking in the lobby at the party where Guy meets Raina. That's missing. And yeah, there's a lot of little edits that I couldn't tell, like little lines that are missing from each one. And they admit, no one edit of this movie contains every single line from it, because of the way it works, because of the way the movie works. The scene with Millie on the yacht is in a different place, is in much later after she finds out about the gate, after she meets up with the smuggler and about the Polish smuggler. There's also edits to that scene, for instance, when Millie talks about organized smuggling, that whole dialogue is cut. And a lot of the edits are really obvious, and quite poorly made, too. Which is probably another reason why Confidential Report is one of the, I guess, not the best edit of it. And yeah, so that's Confidential Report. And then as far as the comprehensive, I made some notes here. Let's see. The Confidential Report is missing narration that is included in the Corneth version when Guy distracts Bob, Raina's boyfriend, by saying, "Oh, there's a telephone call." He goes off so that Guy can talk to Raina, and so there's a scene where you see Bob yelling to the operator, "Operator!" And we hear Guy narrating that a little bit, only in the Corneth version. Also, there's an additional scene where Millie walks in to Bob in the phone booth. And that's not in any other version. Let's see. There's also missing scenes with Zook. Oh, I guess there are some missing scenes with Zook. Millie of Yacht in different place. I might have accidentally something. Let's see. One of the big things, and I didn't realize this until after I saw one of the things. Oh, that was another big thing about it. The movie. Orson Welles said he always wanted to start with Millie's body dead on the beach. So this is the only version. All the other versions start with a narration saying, like, we're showing the plane, Arkadin's plane floating in the middle of the air, with all that. But one of the big things that I didn't notice about this until I was watching the reviews, the supplements, was that one of the things they did in the comprehensive version is that and I tried to get around explaining this in the plot, but it makes sense that in all the other edits, Guy meets Sophie before he meets Arkadin in Mexico. However, this doesn't work because Arkadin mentions at the end of their meeting that he says there are three officers to meet you, and I didn't realize that until because it makes sense because the officers tell him about Sophie and tell him that Sophie wants to meet Guy. So that was one obvious edit, and so that made a lot of sense. And also the ending. All the other endings end with the other two, the Corneth and Confidential Report, end with Raina and Bob driving off, and that's how it ends. However, the comprehensive edit ends with a shot from the plane crashing, and the last thing you hear is an explosion. As soon as it's explosion, you see the end. And then you get the credits. Yeah, the credits are moved to the end of the movie as well, whereas the credits are shown at the beginning of the first two edits. So that's basically the differences. Again, there's a lot of other things I couldn't notice, little lines and things. I really want to pick this up because it's a fascinating project. A fascinating little thing, and I'd love to pick it up so I could read the novelization too. I feel like this is one of those pieces of the puzzles. Sadly, when it was released, it wasn't a big success. It was a disaster sort of thing. Welles was never proud of it. In fact, he didn't like talking about the movie, I guess, because of how butchered it became and how he never really got control of it, in his lifetime. So he was never able, and so because of that, there was never a definitive edit of it. So no three of these edits, these movies, are the definitive edit. There is none. All six versions of this movie, contribute something to him. And I would like to kind of see the public domain version, which isn't included here because again, it's a lot of the dialogue, is really choppy and edited, and So anyway, I was gonna give the whole movie a B+. Because it wasn't the greatest movie I'd seen, but it was still, I think, if I watch it again and again and again, and I realize the edits and notice the edits better, I think I could probably give it an A. Fuck it, I'm gonna give it an A. This was a really interesting. I'm gonna chump out and give it an A. I like this movie a lot. I like the history behind it. It's a puzzle. I like puzzles. This is a trip. So there. Anyway, Mr. Arkadin, A, for whatever version it is. I give the comprehensive version an A. I give probably Confidential Report an A-, B+, and then I'd probably give Corinth an A-. I don't know. That's just how I think about it. Because there were things I liked about the Corinth version, but there are also, the Corinth version, there were some things I liked about the Corinth version that I didn't like. I liked some of the missing dialogue that's only in the Corinth version. That's not in the comprehensive version, so that's why I kind of like that one a little more. But yeah, the Confidential Report edit was kind of sloppy. So that's it for this. Supplements. All right, so let's go through supplements. So I went out of order because I decided to do that. How I decided to do this, I decided to watch all three movies back to back to back, which I was just like, oh god, I'm watching this movie again. I watched the movie 3 times in a row. It's like the things I do for you people. So disc 1 had the 3 episodes of Harry Lime, which I listened to just before I started this review. I decided to save those for last because I put them on my iPhone and decided to play them that way rather than playing them through because they have MP3 versions. And the first episode, Man of Mystery, is the closest to the Mr. Arkadin story. Harry Lime is the Guy Van Straten character. Harry Lime meets him, or Gregory Arkadin meets Harry Lime. Says, hey, so I want you to find out who I am and all that stuff. So it's basically a very short version of that. The other 2 episodes, one called, what was the name of it? Murder in the Riviera, and the other one, Greek Meets Greek, apparently have tiny plot points about the movie. In the movie, I think the only thing I could find a connection to with Murder in the Riviera is that Harry Lime is at the time currently smuggling cigarettes, which is what Guy Van Straten's doing at the beginning of the movie. So that's the only thing I can think. The rest of the plot is about this woman who finds her husband murdered in a car or something like that. And so there's that. And then the other one is even weirder. It's like Harry Lime, Greek Meets Greek. Harry Lime gets measles and is trapped in this hospital room with this woman who's running from these gangsters or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, so I had no clue what that was about. As far as I couldn't pick up anything. It didn't help that Greek Meets Greek was in the worst quality, so it was really difficult to tell some of the dialogue. Again, I'll have to listen to it again and again and again. Those kind of mystery stories require multiple watchings. There's also a 20-minute interview with Harry. Oh gosh, I forget his name. Harry Van. What is his name? Harry Allen Towers. Talking about little history behind the lives of Harry Lime and working with Orson Welles and all that. And how Orson Welles eventually, did a little cameo on The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, he played Moriarty. So yeah, so there's that, and there's some stills, photographs, and behind-the-scenes stuff. And then Disc 2 has a long interview with, gosh, I forget his name. I'm going to look on Criterion. I think it's a Wells scholar. It's a new interview, and I forget his name, and it's not printed. The version I have has a different print, so it doesn't have the liner notes on the back. So let me see. Mr. Arkadin. What is this guy's name? What's his name? It's called, yeah, Men of, where is it? Simon Callow. Simon Callow. Called Men of Mystery. And it's basically, you know, him talking about Robert Arden, the cameo with Michael Redgrave, and Louis Devoyer, the producer, and just talking about, you know, how they influenced the movie. There's extensive excerpts from a late interview with Robert Arden, which is really hard to make out too because the quality is really bad of that. What else? And then that's Disc 2. Disc 3 has the rest of it. Disc 3 has a long, you know, interview with the producers of the comprehensive version, Stefan Drossler and Claude Bertemes and Peter Bogdanovich. Yeah, Peter Bogdanovich. Yeah, that's his name. So anyway, yeah, so they just basically explain the different edits and how they worked. And yeah, and then there's also a lot of outtakes, rushes, a lot of shots of, a lot of close-ups of Wells doing his thing, you know, a lot of silent bits, some deleted scenes, scene where I think Guy asked Raina for money or the other way around. So yeah, and then again the novel, which I really want to get. So I'm definitely gonna pick this up. It's gonna happen. Oh shoot. I forgot. Speaking of picking up, I'll do that tomorrow. I forgot. I have Criterion Showcase. I'll do that next time because my computer's about to die. And I forgot. I don't usually bring the charger into my recording room here, so I'll have to wrap up here. So tomorrow I will showcase my round 1 of the Criterion, my Criterion pickups from the Barnes & Noble sale. But for now, I'm going to wrap up here. Complete Mr. Arkadin A. In the end, it's an A. The whole package here. Criterion did their thing. Not bad. So that's it for today. Tomorrow we got Renoir. We got Gabin. We got Renoir. La Bête Humaine. And then we may be taking Thursday off. We may be taking another day off. That was the other thing I wanted to explain. Yeah, something came up yesterday, and with the time change, daylight savings time ending, I ran out of time. I kind of didn't feel like I had enough time to do everything on here, and it turns out I did not. So something came up, so I decided to wait another day to do the Complete Mr. Arkadin. So that's why you're seeing the review today. So yeah, and also got Kind Hearts and Cornets finally, and then Metropolitan, and then the Louis Malle films are on my desk. I didn't bring them home. I'm still waiting on Murmur of the Heart. It's on its way. It should be here sometime later this week. But yeah, so I'm actually off on Friday, so I have an extra day, but I don't have any movies to fill up the time. So I may be taking a day off. I may take Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday off. I'm not sure right now. It may be Thursday, but it also might be Friday too. I'm not sure. I'm thinking I might actually do a rewatch of a movie, and I'm thinking it might be Coup d'etat. I'm thinking I might find some time later this week to do Coup d'etat. We'll see. So anyway, that's I'll keep in touch with you guys. I forget how long the movie is, and it depends on my schedule too. So anyway, that's it from me. Thank you for watching. Oh gosh, don't lock your director out of your friggin' film when you're editing. You know, don't not let the director do it. You know, the producer, writer, and director of your film. You know, don't lock him out of the editing room. But more movie. See, don't be ashamed of your past. I guess. Don't get into a plane with no fuel. I don't know. I don't know what else. Put your pants on when you go outside. And don't be so greedy for goose liver, because it ain't that good. Or so I'm assuming. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching, and we will see you tomorrow for Renoir La Bitumen. And until then, goodbye.